Before we launch tonight's edition of the Virtual Tack Room, we want to send our friends, family, and racing colleagues in Colchester County and all of Nova Scotia a message. On behalf of the harness racing community, our thoughts and prayers are with you all during this difficult time. You are Nova Scotia strong, and we are standing with you. And now, let us pause for a moment of silence for our neighbors in Nova Scotia. Well, welcome to another edition of the Virtual Tack Room on this Saturday. And boy, what a beautiful day it has been across Prince Edward Island today. The sunshine was out. We were out in the yard for a while today. Also doing some work, making sure we get the everything set to go for the yard. And the neighbors were out today. And I know I was talking to my neighbor, Willie McGinnis, today, and he was giving me an update, of course, in the Kenny Arsenault stable today, saying it's very busy around the racetrack. And I know with the weather, the way it's been, the country tracks as well have really been kicking into gear. As I noticed a lot of photos and around all the farms across Prince Edward Island and around the Maritimes, for that fact. We have a great show lined up for you tonight. I'm Lee Drake. I'm one of the hosts that's going to be on the show tonight. Right off the top, I want to do a shout out to Nick Oakes, who in his weekly column did a really nice job of giving us some appreciation and writing a story about the Virtual Tack Room. We really appreciate that, Nick. Thank you very much. We're going to kick off tonight with a very busy show. I want to go with a couple of places first. First of all, you'll find us at UMI Sports, Universum Media, Scott McLean working the broadcast here tonight from the production side of things. And we have several platforms that we're going on, of course, on Facebook. You can also get it on the YouTube channel, or you can go to redshores.ca and click on live racing, and that's where you'll find the Virtual Tack Room. Another great sponsor for tonight, JD Marine and Diving. I want to thank Cam McPhee, who reached out to us and wanted to be part of this show, because as you know, during this time when we have to stay apart, it's a show to bring us together, the harness racing community. And so I know I've done some work with Cam. He's got a great harness racing background as well. But on the corporate side of things with Red Shores and his company, we've been doing some work together, and we're looking forward to having part of a sponsorship package this year when we eventually get back to racing. And I just want to say that it's, young people like him, business people like him, and involved in the harness racing community. He's also stepped up and is on a subcommittee with the PEI Harness Racing Industry Association. So doing a lot of great work. And Cam, we do appreciate your support on the show, and we look forward to working with you down the road in the harness racing community. So with that, kicking off the show tonight, we have Ken Warkentin. We have the Cushings with us tonight, Ron and his son Mitchell. And the photo parade's all coming up as well. Let's bring in the hosts now as we go across the island, not far from here in Sherwood, but let's go back out to Cornwall, and my co-host for tonight, Red Shores co-host, and that's Peter McPhee. Peter, good to see you.
Hi, Lee, and hi, Jerry, and hi, Kent. Great to be back on the show again this week. Lee, like you, I was out in the yard today doing a little bit of raking, went for a walk with my family. So a nice day today here on the island, and looking forward to a great show. Like you said, our friend Kenny Warkentin is going to join us, and looking forward to talking to Ron and Mitchell Cushing, Lee, who won the Gold Cup last year.
All right, and over to you, Jerry. Good to see you again. Nice to have you back on the Virtual Tack Room. And as I said, it was nice to get some recognition this week with Nick Oakes giving us a little shout out on his column on Friday. That was nice.
Sure was, Lee. Good evening, Peter, Kent, great to be back for another week. Get out in the yard with the family today as well, taking advantage of a nice sunny day, Mother Nature, to get things tidied up a little bit. Looking forward to another great walk down memory lane this evening with both guests Ken Warkentin and Mitchell and Ron Cushing, going back to last year's Gold Cup. Should be a lot of fun.
And Ken Oakes, the creator of the show, the guy that called us and come up with this concept, and here we are, Kent. I think we're into week 6 or week 7 now, and good to have you back on the show tonight.
Great to see everybody, and like you, I was out and about today. I took a stop by the CDP. It was a busy place, a lot of horses training today. I understand the Railbirds got there around 5 to 6 this morning, I understand, to get a good spot on the homestretch parking lot to watch the training. It was very busy. I heard from Minister Darlene Compton today. She was in Panette, and it was busy down there as well. Everybody's getting their preparations in for when we're able to resume racing.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, so we're going to move on to our first guest of the night. Really no surprise to us because, and no stranger to us, that's for sure. We talk to him on a weekly basis. It's great. And of course, he makes the trip here to the Gold Cup and Saucer each and every year. And that's our friend Ken Warkentin. He's called thousands of signature events. He's the voice of the Meadowlands and Freehold. And he's joining us from his home base tonight in New Jersey. Ken, are you there?
I am here, and it's great to be here with you guys today. It was a beautiful day here weather-wise as well in New Jersey, central New Jersey, about 65 degrees and mostly sunny skies, and we went for our daily walk. This has been week 7 since the shutdown, so that's about 49 days, and I haven't missed a day of getting out and walking and going out there, rain or shine, I go.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's one of the questions off the top is like we like to check in with our guests to see how it's been. Now, you're not used to Kenny. You're not used to downtime, and it's been quite a few weeks now. So how are you handling it?
It was at first it was a novelty. We treated it like a kind of a vacation, really. We were going full tilt, calling races, of course, 50 races, some odd races Fridays and Saturdays. On the weekends, reffing a lot of hockey games on Sundays and on weekdays, playing hockey, beer league hockey on Wednesdays as well. And all of a sudden, somebody said, stop. It all stopped. And so did the voiceover work as well. We did a little bit taking a voiceover course as well through the shutdown. But I took some of your advice there, Lee, and I wrote down a schedule. And every day I try to stick to that schedule and just stay informed, have kind of a structure each day, go through the course. My daughter loaned me her bass guitar. You can see behind me here, and I've been trying my hand at that, and that's been a lot of fun. And I've done a lot of work around the house, got a lot of projects done, or projects, as you like to say. And I also like to reach out to people at night. As you know, I reach out to you guys and Skype, and I speak to some of my friends in New Zealand, in Sweden, a lot of question and answer interviews here and there. I know one came out this week from the Daily Racing Forum. Derek Givner did a wonderful job on that. And, you know, before you know it, the day goes by and the days are flowing into weeks, and now we're getting into months. So the target date here in New Jersey, I think, is May 15th. But if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say June 5th. We're still the second hardest hit state here in terms of the health crisis. But a very positive note of news came out yesterday. The President Trump replenished that Paycheck Protection Program, an additional $310 billion. I guess they just continue to print money. And an additional $60 billion for farms for 600 or fewer employees and ranches as well. And also there's a provision in there for more relief for racetracks and businesses that have gambling. So even though there's relief there and we're doing okay, and we do have unemployment insurance for the first time in my life, it is a furlough situation, but we certainly hope to be back very, very soon. We need to work.
So, Ken, that's how I want to start off tonight. We're going to go around to all the different hosts in the show here tonight and actually ask you a couple of questions before we actually get into our first race, which is the Meadowlands Pace, your signature pace there. Before we get into that, though, you mentioned the Daily Racing Forum, and that's where I want to start. It was an excellent piece, And for the viewers that are tuned in tonight, and when you come here and you're hard at work, the Meadowlands and Freehold and all those places, you don't really hear a whole lot about how Ken Warkentin actually got started in this fabulous career that you've had. Would you walk us through how that all began? Because you pointed it out in the forum there, and we just think it's a great story to be told.
Yeah, well, I met a lot of people in high school, really. It actually started even before that. I grew up not far from Greenwood Raceway, which I believe now might still be a teletheater. I know there's a lot of condos there, and my brother does not live far from there as well currently. And I just started going to the track with friends and got involved with a chap that would groom horses on the weekends. So I got down and dirty and mucked out some stalls, and he just, stuck me on a jog cart jogging horses. When I ended up getting the job at Flamborough, just to advance and not bore you with the details, but I ran into a fellow you might know. His name is John Holmes. John the Hitman Holmes. I don't know why, but we became very good friends, and we're still good friends to this. He's my best friend forever, so to speak. And he got me in the stalls and got me out there jogging horses and racing horses and so on. And I kind of got the bug bit. I got bitten by the bug there. And, I worked at Flamborough for a long time. I think it was 8 years, and thought I would be there even longer. But through networking and just talking to people in the business, a job came open at Northfield Park for publicity director. I took that job. And then just by total coincidence, the job came open at the Meadowlands as the backup announcer there and TV host. And that was 30 years ago. So here we are today. So it's been great. It's been a great ride. A lot of races, a lot of thoroughbred races. I've worked at Monmouth Park, probably well over 200,000 races. And, I've worked at Freehold the last 5 years. And it's just been a lot of fun, a lot of great horses, great races. And for me, it's been all about the people I've worked with and the people in the business and the stories. I mean, they're endless. They're just endless.
So Peter McPhee, you're up next.
Well, thanks very much, Lee. And Ken, thanks for coming on tonight. Ken, I'm just wondering, 30 years ago when you went to the Meadowlands, what was that like for you to call your first race there at one of the biggest tracks in North America?
Well, it's a long time ago. It's hard for me to remember. There was a lot of racing back then, a lot of racing days. When I started there, they were racing 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. So there was really no time to, they threw you in the deep end. And I've got to admit that when I started there, in terms of I was doing a lot of the TV. I was hosting the Madison Square Garden Network show, mostly as the host. And every day they would bring in a different commentator. Some, a horseman. Hollywood Hayden did a couple of days. Newspaper writers, just different co-hosts to get a different feel and interpretation of what was going on there. So I met a lot of people right off the top, and I really got to hand it to Hollywood Hayden. He taught me all about, because Hollywood Hayden, Bob Hayden, who's in the Hall of Fame, as you know, and I speak to him every day, still to this point. He lives in Indiana now with his girlfriend, Ellen Taylor, who is the head of the Harness Horse Youth Foundation. And he really had done a lot of, he'd done the first, he was there since day one. So he gave me a lot of background on what was going on there, or what had gone on there, the history of the place. He's a historian and an encyclopedia of harness racing and its history and its rich history there at the Meadowlands specifically. And he just made me comfortable. And we worked together for, more than 25 years. And on the thoroughbred side, there was a fellow by the name of Brad Thomas, who racing fans might be familiar with. He works at Monmouth Park with Mike Kersey. He's the guy with the red hair and the goggles. And he was a very, very, he's like a brother to me. These guys just became like brothers. I worked with them. I see them every day. And, the other guys were they brought different impressions of the business along with them every day, and it just became it was like going to school. And I think I'm still going to school. when I work, I'm not doing so much in terms of TV now, but every day is the next day in racing school for me, because I really, that's to me. I take it, obviously I take it seriously, and I still want to get better, and I still want to learn things, and and I think that's what's kind of carried me through the years. It's still fun too.
Great to hear, Ken. In your time at the Meadowlands, of course, you've got to call some of the sports signature events, the Meadowlands Pace that we'll go back and revisit here in a short time, and also the Hambletonian. You've done 20 of the last 21 Hambletonians. How did you come about to get that gig? Of course, you were sharing time with Sam McKee there, the late Sam McKee. But how did you come to do the Hambletonian, and how does that rank in your races to do each year?
Well, in the words of Dave Johnson, nobody gets this job. It's just that you have to be in the right place at the right time. And Dave Johnson was one of the fixtures there for many years. Everybody knows him from the Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby, down the stretch they come, and so on. An icon. He was there along with John Bolte. And John Bolte was the head chief or senior harness announcer, and John Bolte had left the Meadowlands, and I'll leave it at that. So I, moved into the head role as far as the harness was concerned, and I was Dave Johnson's backup. I was one of them, and now I was his backup in the thoroughbred meet, which was always in the fall, So the first year, I believe, was Self-Possessed, and I'll never forget it. I think it was the day of the Hambletonian. Dave Johnson had a handwritten letter that I still have it, of course. I'm going to frame it someday. But it was just a letter saying, you've worked hard to get to this point. This is a privilege, and just enjoy the day. And I don't remember the race because I was shaking. You're on national television. I still remember the binoculars shaking, and I couldn't see through the binoculars. I did manage to get through the race, and it wasn't a terribly difficult race to call, but Self-Possessed was a pretty dominant winner that day. But over the years I've calmed down a little bit, but the Hambletonian is such a big race. With all due respect to the Little Brown Jug and all the other big races, North America Cup and so on, it's America's trotting race. It has so much tradition and history behind it, and there's a lot of pressure on you to do justice to it. But I love the pressure. So and it's been a lot of fun, and I haven't messed up too many of them.
Ken, I'd like to ask you, you mentioned that you also have called thoroughbred race. What do you find is the difference between calling a thoroughbred and a standardbred race? I know field size would be an issue, but is there much of a difference in your preparation for calling a standardbred versus a thoroughbred race?
Yes, Kent, nice to talk to you, by the way. Hope all is well. The standardbreds, obviously, we're a little more, well, we were a lot more familiar with them. And they race week to week, and it doesn't take long to lock them in your head and get familiarized with them. But the thoroughbreds, they come and go. I'm going to say when the thoroughbred meet would come along in the fall, it would probably take me maybe a week to 2 weeks before I said, okay, I'm all right now. Now I'm comfortable. Getting back into the groove of the way they run. They run in groups, as you know. They don't run in a formation. They make liars out of you. It looks like a horse is making a move and he flattens out and so on. They change leads in the stretch. Some like the grass, some like the dirt. It's tricky and it's more challenging. And you really got to memorize the field and get the field down. And a lot of times you don't have time to lock a field in. They come on the track, they go to the gate, and there's 14, or well, usually 12. I've had 14 horse fields at Monmouth, but I believe. But anyway, a 12-horse field might have 3 or 4 horses that have the same colors. So you got to go to the hood, the cap of the jockey. Sometimes if the horse has socks or bandages in the front, you do whatever you can, and sometimes you get lucky.
Ken, I'm gonna take you to the 2019 Meadowlands Pace here. Your signature event at the Big M, called by your friend Sam McKee for many years. This is your second time calling the race. Before we get into it, I know I'm going to throw it over to Peter after this, and then he's going to throw to the race. But I texted you after the event here, after that race, and that was just an amazing call, an amazing race. What do you remember about it?
Well, I can tell you, and I told you earlier in the week, for some reason I wasn't feeling that well leading up to the race. It was, I'm not sure what it was. I went to the doctor, I think 2 weeks before. It might have been just a blood sugar thing. I don't know. Might have been a virus. I have no idea. But I wasn't 100% that night. But there's something about a situation where you're not 100% and you bear down, and sometimes something better comes out of that. That's the best way I can explain it. I wasn't 100% before that race, and I was very nervous. And it took a lot of bearing down to get it right.
Well, Lee, we'll go to the race now, and we'll get Kenny's reaction after the race. Here's the 2019 Meadowlands Pace and Best in Show.
And they're off. Best in Show's out fast. And on the outside, U.S. Captain working on a mystery, and Captain Ahab's put in play by Andrew McCarthy. The big favorite, Captain Crunch, on the inside, left well as they are 3 across the track in the first turn. So Captain Ahab takes the lead. Not for long. Here comes Best in Show, and Brian Sears aggressive with that one. Working on a mystery. Is working on getting to the lead here from third. So Captain Crunch, fourth on the inside, looks to follow him. Bettors Wish, fifth on the outside past the opening quarter. Then it's Escape to the Beach on the inside. Followed on the outside by Hurricane Emperor. Then it's Raining Day on the inside, followed by U.S. Captain on the outside. The early trailer is Captain Trevor. First quarter up, Swift 26-2 across the backstretch. And now Captain Crunch, the big favorite, with Scott Ciron's going to take charge. Captain Crunch to the lead, working on a mystery, back in the second spot now. Bettors Wish now to challenge on the outside. He's left first over off a half of dazzling 52-4. Onto the far turn. Captain Crunch, Bettors Wish on the outside. Those two slug it out with 3/8 to go now. Working on a mystery is back in the third position as they head to 3 quarters. On the inside, that's Best in Show, and he is a stride for stride as they race past 3 quarters. It is still Captain Crunch on the inside. Bettors Wish on the outside, trying to wear him down steadily. Working on a mysteries right there. And now Best in Show shaking loose off the cones from fourth, but needs to do more. 3 quarters. Unbelievable. 1:19-3 into the stretch. Captain Crunch under intense pressure. Right there on the outside is Bettors Wish. And here comes Working on a Mystery, trying to reel them in. Best in Show is in heavy traffic. Captain Crunch put to the test. Bettors Wish is gigantic. Working on a Mystery. And on the inside, Best in Show. Best in Show. Best in Show. And it's tight with Working on a Mystery right there. And Bettors Wish, a 3-play photo for win. 148 in a thrilling Crawford Farms Meadowlands Pace.
Well, I'll tell you, that just gives you goosebumps. Ken, they were putting up some very, very hot fractions there. I mean, you said at 1:19-3. Did I get that right? 3 quarters?
Yeah, there was a lot of action in the race.
Unbelievable. That's what I was going to ask
you. The key to the race was there was a lot of action. Yeah, there was just a lot of action. You saw Brian Sears with Best in Show. He left, I think that was the key. One of the keys anyway. He left alertly, yielded for that close-up striking position. You had Tim Tetrick, who also blasted off with Working on a Mystery. That horse was giant in the race as well. He had to overcome an outside post to establish that stalking spot. You had Scott Ciron, who made his move to the front in a 26-2 second quarter, then took immediate pressure from Bettors Wish, the other elimination winner. Dexter Dunn making his debut in the pace. They battled through a 26-4 third quarter. And Best in Show was the only one from the top 4 in the race to have enough pace to come home under 28, 27 3/5. It was just a brilliant drive by Brian Sears, his third Meadowlands Pace victory. And Linda Toscano, the trainer, wins her first Meadowlands Pace just less than a week from her Hall of Fame induction the previous Sunday. Richard and Joanne Young were the owners and breeders. Third full out of their great world champion put on a show, and the best sire in horse racing history, all of horse racing, Bettors Delight finishes 1-2, Best in Show and Bettors Wish, both returning to race in 2020. And despite that upset in the race, 27-1, the favorites are 21 for 43 in this race, almost 50%, and 76% in the money in that race. The Meadowlands Pace, the sixth time in 7 years in the Meadowlands Pace that the handle went past $4 million that night as well. So great horses, great drivers, and great trainers, and you put it all together, and you had a huge upset. You had drama and great competition, and that's why it's spine tingling.
Kenny, you and I were talking last night about the race, and you were saying in mid-stretch as they were getting closer to the wire, you caught the eye of Best in Show, and you said he's in heavy tracking. When he ducked down, you were able to call the race as it was finishing and nail it right on the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I saw that Tim Tetrick could have come through on the inside, but he decided to angle. Maybe that's just the way that horse likes to race. Some horses just don't like to come up the rail. And that opened the door for Brian Sears to come on through. A Bettors Wish, he was, as you saw, first over, 26-2, second or third quarter, or second quarter rather, and was still pacing forward at the wire. I couldn't believe that he held second. Captain Crunch was right there under intense pressure, and as you said, as you saw, working on a mystery, angled with a menacing late move. They were all right there at the wire. So it was just a great race. You had the 2019 O'Brien Award winner, Captain Crunch, who was looking to become the 10th horse to win the North American Cup and the Meadowlands Pace as well. So he would go on to win the O'Brien Award. The two elimination winners right there, Captain Crunch and Bettors Wish. And Bettors Wish goes on to be the leading money winner in harness racing in 2019. So, and was a candidate with Sharton in the conversation for Horse of the Year as well. So it was great. Like I said, you can't duplicate something like that. You can't make it up. But you put the right ingredients in the cake, and you come up with a pretty good cake. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, our next one, if you thought that one was great, the next one too. You've selected a couple of big races here, and you have so many to select from your resume over the years for sure. But we're going to take you to the 2019 Hambo and the Hambletonian, Forbidden Trade, Bob McClure. Jerry McCabe is going to lead off the segment. Jerry?
Great lead up for that race just before Old Home Week, of course, and Ken coming to visit us. Hambo Day, everybody was expecting Marcus Mealander's trio to dominate coming in. Green Shoe was the big favorite. In the eliminations, his undefeated horse, Gimpanzee, got knocked off in the first elimination by a stablemate, Green Manalishi. And then in the second elimination heat, Green Shoe, as expected, did it all, won fairly easily in 150-2. He had a 3-week break coming into that race after winning the Stanley Dancer Memorial in 150-1 3 weeks prior, but didn't seem to look awesome in that elimination. Forbidden Trade made it into the final off a third-place finish, 2 lengths back on that day. And going into the race, everybody expected was going to be one of Mealander's horses were going to get the job done, most likely Green Shoe and Brian Sears, but any one of the three. And, of course, the Canadian connections pulled off the upset. Bob McClure for trainer Luke Blaze and Serge Godin and Distinction Capital, the owners. All Canadian connection pulled off great upset. What do you remember about coming into that race, Ken?
Well, as you astutely point out, that it was supposed to be the crowning moment for the 2018 Rising Star and 2019 Trainer of the Year, 27-year-old Marcus Mealander, who did a wonderful job. We sent up 4 in the 2 eliminations, and those 3 stars you mentioned, Green Shoe, Green Manalishi, who, by the way, was game second a couple of days ago in Sweden. and because he's over there and he's prepping for the Elite Lop. We also had Chimpanzee, as you pointed out, owned by Anders Strom's Coron Stable. Now, the previously undefeated Chimpanzee was 12 for 12 going into his elimination. He was fourth behind stablemate Green Manalishi, who the son of a Hambo record upsetter, Muscle Hill, who overcame Post 8 in a career best 150-3, a 9-1 upset with Tetrick. And then you had Melander sweeping both eliminations. He had the 1-5 favorite Green Shoe, who cruised in 150-2 for Brian Sears, son of Father Patrick, who, by the way, made a break from Post 10 back in 2014. Then you had Don't Let Him, Yannick Gingras, looking for his first Hambo, finished second in that second heat. And for Forbidden Trade, as you pointed out, finishes third. Now, so the stage is set here. You've got Green Manalishi from Post 4, Tim Tetrick, Forbidden Trade, Canada's champion 2-year-old. And, of course, he was the horse of the year again this year, and champion 3-year-old. Wearing the trotting hobbles from Post 6 with Bob McClure. Dave Miller picks up the drive on the 7, Chimpanzee. You're going to see Green Shoe not looking too comfortable leaving the gate. Brian Sears held him together. He got away further back than expected. Midway on the first turn, you're going to see Jimmy Takter. Jimmy Takter picks up the drive. He drives the 9 Osterch for Per Englum, his former assistant. And Jimmy Takter has Green Shoe jammed up briefly just past the opening quarter. You'll see Green Shoe gets a little rough gated there. And on the final turn, Forbidden Trade kind of gaps his cover a bit. Then he gets going. He's tracked by Green Shoe. And that kind of sets the stage for the stretch drive. We'll let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Kent, do you have a question for Kenny before we throw to the race?
No, I'm just looking forward to this race. I think you've perfectly set it up. It was a really exciting time going into that race. Some wonderful old trotting colts of the year, and I'm looking forward to seeing the race.
Sounds good.
Now, I
We'll
will
go to it
point
now.
out, guys. Sorry, just not to interrupt, but in mid-stretch, you'll see that Green Shoe was all set to rally stoutly under what appeared to be confident Brian Sears handling, but the fresh Forbidden Trade would outstep the favorite here to the tune of 15-1 in a lifetime best of 151, so saving the best for that second heat. McClure commented it was an incredible fight to the wire after he was able to save following a live horse in Green Manalishi. So it looks like Green Shoe is all set to go by, but he doesn't go by.
Okay, here it is, Kenny, the 2019 Hambletonian Forbidden Trade and Bob McClure.
The 2019 Hambletonian, race 12. Here they come. And they're off in the Hambletonian as Marseille and Oki Svanstead flashing speed. Marseille, Forbidden Trade from between horses, and Osterch on the far outside coming on with Pilot Discretion cutting the corner into the first turn. Marseille to the front again. Pilot Discretion into the second spot, and Green Manalishi assumes third. Forbidden Trade is parked out fourth. Takter going up with Osterch on the outside fifth. Green Shoe is wedged in sixth right now and slips out in front of Don't Let Him. And then it's Chimpanzee with a slow beginning, followed by Cantab Fashion on the inside and Soul Strong. First quarter was sharp, 26-1. Marseille on the engine out of second. Pilot Discretion. Andrew McCarthy takes over across the backstretch. Green Manalishi and Tim Tetrick tightening in from third towards the half. Forbidden Trade edging to the outside, fourth. Looking to follow him is Green Shoe underway, fifth on the outside now as they have passed the half. Then it's Osterch on the inside. Osterch is followed by a Cantab Fashion stride for stride with Don't Let Him. And then it's Chimpanzee and Soul Strong, the half up in 55 seconds, rated half mile here. Pilot Discretion in front. Green Manalishi now sticks a long neck in front. He forces the issue with Forbidden Trade right there on the outside, but he has stalled. Marseille is pinned in fourth now and forced three wide. Green Shoe needs to get going here, and he's floundering on the rim at this point as they pass three quarters in 1:23-2, and it's Green Manalishi who leads them home in the Hambletonian. Green Manalishi and fighting back. Pilot Discretion has more. Marseille on the inside. Forbidden Trade looking for a huge upset. Here comes Green Shoe unleashed by Brian Sears. Green Shoe with a sharp stretch kick. And he's drawing clear, fighting back. Forbidden Trade on the inside. Green Shoe, Forbidden Trade with a gigantic upset for Forbidden Trade. Green Shoe flying late was Chimpanzee, and Soul Strong 151.
Well, there it is there. Again, Ken, when you get a chance to relive that race, as many of us have so many times, the Canadian Connections. I know our friend Greg Blanchard there, a longtime colleague there with the Canadian Connections there in the winner's circle. But take us through, once again, as you see it and hear the call through that stretch. I mean, there were a lot of people talking about the stretch drive there. You've taken nothing away for Forbidden Trade and Green Shoe, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that again.
Yeah, I took a bit of heat for two words that I said there in the stretch. That was drawing clear, and it appeared that this horse was Green Shoe was just going to draw off. And Hollywood Hayden told me at Harrisburg, he ran into a guy at Harrisburg, somebody, and the guy said, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. Everybody and his brother thought the same thing that Ken did when that horse appeared to be going by." So, and I did recover, and, it was just, if I could take those two words back and maybe say something like charging hard, as Sam McKee used to say, or coming on. That horse had a tough beginning in the race, but he looked like he had the freshest legs, and he was going to kick clear. And I think Brian Sears might have thought that too, because right at the wire, he starts to get after Green Shoe, but for Forbidden Trade, all credit to him and Bob McClure with a great drive there. He just had a little bit more. And, Marcus Melander finishes second, third, and fifth. Those three trotters making $1 million each. Forbidden Trade, it's his birthday today, by the way. He was born 4 years ago today. So happy birthday to Forbidden Trade, who goes on to be Canada's Horse of the Year and 3-year-old of the year. And how about Bob McClure, the 28-year-old Bob McClure, who had suffered a broken pelvis in a qualifying accident on back in April of last year, and he was back in action on May 23rd. He admitted that he kind of came back a little quick because he used a hyperbaric chamber, and he drove 3 O'Brien Award finalists last year. He led Canadian drivers in wins in 2016, 2017. The native of Orangeville, Ontario, Bob McClure, is certainly a rising star and a big feather in his cap for winning the Hambletonian with Forbidden Trade. So there you have it. Forbidden Trade, $110,000 Harrisburg yearling for Serge Godin's determination. And congratulations to the Connections. It was a great race.
Kenny, next we're going to go to the 2003 Hambo, and I know this is a favorite of yours. But before we go there, and before we get some other questions from our host tonight, Kenny, we all know what the atmosphere is like here, Gold Cup and Saucer night. What's it like there, Hambo Day?
Well, Hambletonian Day, there's nothing really like it. It's an early start. We have an autograph session, a meet and greet with the drivers. There's a youth league race prior to the race, prior to the card, that are tribute to youth in the sport. And that's just a card that's loaded with stakes events, and all the stars are there. All the stars are on the track in all these major stakes, both equine and human. And there's always major drama going for big money. And it's an international event. I mean, it's represented by so many different countries, and it's seen all over the world. So the Hambletonian is the centerpiece of what we call, and I believe, is the greatest day in harness racing. It's indescribable. You have to be there. It's kind of like the Gold Cup and Saucer. You kind of have to be there to really appreciate it.
Yeah, Ken, it's Ken here. You mentioned there that in hindsight that you maybe would have preferred to use a couple of words, but certainly with the performance that Green Shoe had put in before and the extreme speed that horse had, I think people thought off that trip that he would probably, as you say, be the winner. But Forbidden Trade put in an exceptional performance that day. Along that line is what announcers did you most admire when you were growing up and kind of emulated some of the words and some of the style of announcing that has carried you forward to a great career?
Well, that's a good question. I think in the beginning, announcers like Earl Lennox, the great Jack Stevens, who was the Ontario Jockey Club announcer before him, was a great inspiration. One night he was late filling in for Earl Lennox and let me call the first race. It was at Greenwood, which was quite the experience. I didn't mess up. And moving forward, there were guys that have to credit the late Wayne Reed, who was a longtime announcer at Flamborough Downs and Orangeville and places like that. Paul Dubiel, who did a lot of the Ontario Jockey Club fill-ins for Earl Lennox and so on, and a lot of the B tracks gave me a lot of opportunities to fill in at places like Elmira, Clinton, Goderich, a ton of tracks. And there was a lot of opportunity to get your feet wet there in Ontario with all the tracks there. And you know, one of the biggest influences was Tom Durkin, because for me, when I heard him and I heard his voice and the way he did things, I said, that's the way it should be done. And I didn't want to imitate him, but I certainly was inspired by him. I remember the first time I met him and I told him, I said, you know, I've admired you for many years from afar. He turned around and said, oh, you've got to shoot higher than that, Ken. So he was a very nice man, and obviously he was an icon in terms of announcers. And but the Jack Stevens told me two things. He said, just be yourself, and remember that the stars are on the track, and you're just there to highlight them.
Well, some great advice there. You know, just like happens in every tack room, Ken, when we get to whether it's Old Home Week or whatever, the time just flies by. We're at 9:42, so we're going to roll into so many of the great races that you had a chance to choose from tonight's virtual tack room, which is brought to you by JD Marine and Diving Inc. You picked a race in 2003. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's a lot to pick from, as you pointed out, and as we discussed earlier in the week. And you know, I've got a soft spot for Iron Mike LeChance. I love Mike. He's just the greatest. He's, you know, I don't know how many times he got stuck in traffic on the turnpike, but he was determined to make the interview at 6:30, and he would get there 30 seconds to spare, sprinting across the paddock, and he was just such a great guy to deal with. And I believe he's turning 70 later this year, so an early happy birthday for him. But this is the 2003, so 17 years ago, the 2003 Hambletonian. There were 3 eliminations that were moved to the previous week in 98. So there was an open draw that was inaugurated in 1992. So Amigo Hall with the open draw, like Muscles Yankee, the 1998 winner, Amigo Hall drew post position 6th. Now, Amigo Hall finished a solid 3rd from post 8 in the 3rd elimination. He was making his 7th start of the season, his 10th career start, so he's still kind of a green young horse. 52-year-old Mike LeChance, 52 at the time, capped off a fabulous season in the twilight of his career. He had won the Meadowlands Pace earlier in the year. First time Mike LeChance on the horse for Desmond Tacour. And another horse, again, he drove for the first time. John Campbell, in this final, opted to drive the slowest elimination winner in Power to Charm. You'll note that a record 5 horses made a break before the 8th pull in the final, and 6 of the 10 made breaks. Malabar Millennium breaks late in the race. Malabar Millennium was by 1997 Hamble winner Malabar Man out of the 1998 Oaks champion Gleam, both owned by Mal Burrows. Amigo Hall only started 3 times as a 2-year-old. The colt came back in late May of his 3-year-old season, winning a non-winners of 2 and a non-winners of 3 back-to-back at Woodbine. Blair Burgess freshened him up. I vaguely remember a very brief conversation with him in the grandstand, and I just said, you know, this is a guy, wait a minute, this is a guy who has started 8 times in the Meadowlands Pace. Hall of Famer from last summer, okay, inducted in the Hall of Fame. A great trainer who would bring them in to win or do well. 8 Meadowlands Pace. 2 winners, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 7 of the 8 had won checks. He was 6th and 4th in the other 2. So, you know, a guy like that, I know he hadn't had great success with trotters. He would later have the Triple Crown champion Glide Master. You know, I just had a hunch So on live television on CBS, I picked him. So there you go.
Okay, Kenny, we're going to go to the race here now. The 2003 Hambletonian and Amigo Hall. Here's the call.
2003 $1 million Hambletonian making a break there with Smooth Glide far back at the start. Here they come. And off stride Bebop. Bebop is off stride. A costly error early there. And Amigo Hall guns out. An Incredible Hulk from the outside. Tried to leave, and he is off stride. So early breakers here. Pen Pronto squeezed through on the inside. As Malabar Millennium moves up second, it's Amigo Hall. Mike LaChance by 2 lengths there. Around the first turn, Malabar Millennium second. The favorite Power to Charm got away well in good order third. Sugar Trader is fourth. Max Crown K is close up in fifth. A wide gap to Incredible Hulk after his break. And on a break, Smooth Glide once again. Pen Pronto way back who made a break, and Bebop is out of it after his break in stride. First quarter was slow, 28-2. Mike LaChance will try to steal it here with Amigo Hall. But here comes John Campbell with Power to Charm, looking to make a key move to the top here. Power to Charm now engages Amigo Hall up the backstretch and takes over. Malabar Millennium close up in third, gap of 4 lengths. Sugar Trader is fourth past the half. Max Crown K here's trying to tip out with that one. Then comes Incredible Hulk, way back to Pen Pronto, Bebop, and the distant trailer, Smooth Glide. The half was 55 and 4, 27-2. They picked it up there, and it's Power to Charm. John Campbell by a length and a half. Amigo Hall right there in the tight second as they approach 3/4. Charging hard, here comes Sugar Trader on the outside. As Sugar Trader and Luke Willett lock up, Power to Charm on the inside. And John Campbell steps on the gas there under the pressure of Sugar Trader. Looming large, Max Crown K. Pierce tips 3 wide with that one. Amigo Hall looks for room. Then it's Incredible Hulk, 3/4, 125. A good rated quarter there. Power to Charm. Sugar Trader on the outside is powering to the lead. It's Sugar Trader, but Max Crown K stalked them all the way. Pierce going to work there. Incredible K on the outside and shaking loose late on the inside. Amigo Hall is coming. It's Amigo Hall. Iron Mike LaChance pulls off the shocker at 27-1. It's Amigo Hall. He takes it here over Sugar Trader. Third was Max Crown K. 154. Mike LaChance. What a season he's having. Mike LaChance scores here with Amigo Hall in a shocking victory in the Hambletonian.
Well, Ken,
Well,
before the race at 27-1. 27-1, you went on live TV and called that horse, and then comes in to win. I don't know how you were feeling before the race, but you must have been feeling really good after.
Well, again, I had a hunch. Blair Burgess can train horses. Even and back then, he shipped this horse in, and he certainly had potential. I didn't know he had that much potential, but when Mike LaChance picked up the drive, first time Mike LaChance wakes horses up, or he did anyway. And this was his 4th Hambletonian, the first not trained by Ron Gerfine. The beaten favorite, Power to Charm, trained by Tron Smetshammer, who would, by the way, come back the following year with a Triple Crown, trotting Triple Crown winner and Hambletonian winner, Winsong's Legacy. The newly minted Hall of Fame trainer, Blair Burgess, we mentioned him, making his Hambletonian debut after previously winning the $1 million Meadowlands Pace with Frugal Gourmet and Real Desire. And Amigo Hall, a $32,000 yearling who didn't bring his reserve. He missed it by $1,000 at the auction. So the breeder, Alan Levitt of Walnut Hall, the storied Walnut Hall, bought him back. And then he sold half to the Burgess family. Amigo Hall, sired by Ontario Stallion and Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame member Balanced Image. Remember that name? Who sent a Yankee Paco in 2000, a Hambletonian winner there. And other top performers were Billy Joe Jimbob, Good Times, and the $2 million winner, Glory's Comet, driven by my buddy John Holmes. So that's the way it went. Canadian Connections, by the way, have won 3 of the last 5 Hambletonians. We have Forbidden Trade, the filly Atlanta in 2018, Marion Marauder for Paula Wellwood, the Wellwood Connections 2016, and the brothers John and Jim Fielding, co-owners of Pinkman, the 2015 winner, trained by the 4-time Hambo winner and Hall of Famer Jimmy Takter, who's dominated the Hambletonian as well. But Mike LaChance wasn't intending on leaving the gate, but he said after the race the colt felt really, really good. And why did he feel good? Well, Blair Burgess had him ready, and Mike LaChance can drive.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to talking to Blair on a regular basis through Standardbred Canada and the work in Ontario. And Ken, it's been an awesome time to have you tonight. It's just been excellent to have you on the show. Guys, I'll give you some closing comments with Ken here tonight before we sign off here. But Ken, we won't be talking tonight because we talk on the show tonight, but I'm sure we'll be talking throughout the week. Take care of yourself, my friend.
You too.
Thanks for coming on, Kenny. And I hope to see you in August. Hope you can make it down for Old Home Week.
Absolutely, Peter. And if I do come, I won't be on a plane. I think I'm going to drive, but we'll see. But it's always an honor to be invited to Old Home Week and the Gold Cup and Saucer. It's a tremendous event, and you certainly have to be there to and witness it, the experience, to really appreciate it. It's the cradle of harness racing, the Kentucky of Canada, and all those things. But again, it is a privilege and just a great experience to be there every year. And it's an honor for me to be invited there every year. And I love working with you guys. You guys, it's like my second home, and you guys are like family.
Take care of yourself, Ken. Talk to you soon.
My pleasure.
Ken.
Thanks.
Okay, Ken Warkentin, our special guest tonight in the opening quarter of the virtual Tack Room. And I should have asked him how they got that cameraman on the starting gate. Did you notice that, guys? The cameraman on the engine bonnet? He wasn't there at the start of the race, or at least I didn't see him. In any case, I love that opening segment. We still have the Cushing still to come. And we have right now, let's go to the photo parade on our next segment as we roll along in the virtual Tack Room. Okay, so we get rolling
guys,
here with their first song or their first video or a photo in the photo parade. And Kent, over to you to set it up for this historic photo.
Sure, thanks. This is one of my favorite photos I have. As we look back, it's been 15 years. It's gone by very quickly since we opened the facility in August of 2005, the new CDP. But I just wanted to perhaps briefly touch on some history here. Through the efforts of the government of the day and the minister responsible, Mitch Murphy, and the deputy, Mike O'Brien. In August of 2004, we received approval from the provincial government to announce the replacement of the old CDP, which had been badly damaged, we remember, by Hurricane Juan the previous year. We closed the CDP on October 2nd, 2004, and started demolition of the building the following Monday. We had a tremendous group of people who had been doing some work behind the scenes on the design and construction plans for the facility, led by Vernon McQuillan of Fitzgerald and Snow, the BGHJ architects, Dan Kuhn and Arnold Stewart, who were the lead for us on the track construction that we did in 2005, and many, many others. We first raced 9 months later, the 1st of June, before the building opened. But when we officially opened the CDP in Old Home Week 2005, we wanted to recognize harness racing and the rich heritage that we have. So we invited members of the families who had been recognized at the previous Atlantic Breeders' Crowns to participate in the ribbon cutting, because in their minds, it was all about harness racing. From left in the picture we see is the Honorable Mitch Murphy. Mitch was a Camfell Award winner and lead minister responsible. Alan Smith, Lester Chappell, Joe and Molly Hennessy, Jenny Bernard, Orville Willis. Next in the black suit is Bob Kosniak. Bob was the project lead hired by Atlantic Lottery. Bob had led the construction of a lot of the racinos in Ontario. He became a great friend of mine and was instrumental in helping us complete the project on time and on budget. And on the far right, we can see in the blue shirt is Jimmy Whalen. Jimmy did an incredible job behind the scenes, meeting with PEI ministers, talking about the benefits of investing in harness racing, toured people that went to Ontario from here. And he's certainly a great friend to all of us in PEI. That was a really, really great day in August of 2005 when we got to officially launch the new Charlottetown Driving Park.
Yeah, that's an awesome picture, Kent. And I know that's also there. To the far left of that photo is the late Scott McCauley, the face of College of Piping at the time, was also part of that special ceremony at the CDP that night. So right after the ribbon cutting, of course, we went right back to the track, to the action. And look at this next photo here, Jerry and Kent and Peter. I remember it well, the excitement of the ribbon cutting, and then this takes place.
Yeah, Lee, this was amazing. I think it was the first race right after, and again, it was the new opening of the track, and we had a dead heat in the first race. Family ties with Kenny Murphy on the inside, and Len Barney McGuigan with Believe in Me, dead heating, which is pretty amazingly, considering we kicked off a new era for the racetrack, and we have a dead heat in the first race.
It wasn't that long ago that Barney knocking one day on the can asked me about that photo. I know that photo lived for many years in Sam McLeod's booth upstairs, and every time we go on tours, people would look at that and they'd say, "Wow, this was why is that so significant?" And that's the reason for it. But it's nice that it's resurfaced for tonight, and people get a chance to see it.
And now we go back in time to the early 80s at the CDP for a win photo. We have Jimmy Smallwood and probably his own mare, Sandals, winning perhaps during Old Home Week that year in 2, 8, and 3. At the head of that filly is Glenna Jordan, who was a longtime caretaker with Joe Smallwood, looked after the likes of Saul's Pride and J.K. Beauty, top-notch groom, and she was later involved with ownership as well with Shalom Shan. And now, after a time away from the industry, Glenna's back the last couple of years with the fractional ownership group that owns the Fox, a 3-year-old colt that'll be hopefully racing in the stakes program later this summer. Next to Jimmy, we have June Coyle. June worked with Joe as a groom and later a trainer for over 40 years, beginning in the mid-70s. Joe passed away 2 years ago this June, and June Coyle was at his side racing horses for all those years. And next to June is Leonard Barney McGuigan, longtime teamster at the Charlottetown track with over 1,500 wins. Barney was a good friend of the Smallwood family, worked for Joe's brother, Jimmy's brother, Henry, and helped them out over the years, and of course is still involved now training horses at the CDP with his son, Mike.
And this is a photo. We wanted to mention that we've lost several friends in maritime harness racing recently. This is a photo of the late Dr. Bob Webster, a longtime successful contributor to our industry. About 4 years ago, Standard Canada recognized Bob for having registered a foal for the most consecutive years of anyone in Canadian racing. This is a photo of Bob doing what he loved to do, working on a horse. He's with the late Francis McIsaac, and we want to express our condolences to the family of Bob Webster on his passing.
I'd also like to extend condolences to the family and friend of Linda Hughes, who passed away earlier this week as well. Linda worked for the Fredericton Exhibition Association for over 30 years. A great lady, she will be missed.
All right, so another edition of the photo parade tonight. We have some other photos that are coming in a little later. We'll get to those. We have some birthday wishes tonight going out to Margaret Bannister celebrating. Margaret, I know, tuned in tonight along with husband Raymond. Well, Raymond White and I we were together not that long ago, really, for a special edition for a banquet in Panette. It doesn't seem that long ago anyway. It could be weeks by now. And also I heard from Darlene White, but just pass along birthday wishes to you tonight. Hope you're enjoying the virtual tack room. We're going to go to the third quarter now, the 3 quarters of the show, and it's our pleasure to hook them up tonight and get them in on the show. They had such a great performance last year in the 2019 Gold Cup and Saucer. And right now we're going to go to Ronald Cushing and his son Mitchell Cushing. I know they're in 2 different locations, so let's see if we can... there they are. So we have Ron and Mitchell. Good evening, guys. How are you doing?
Good, how are you? Hey, Lee, how are you?
Ron, we're going to start with you. first of all, like we like to do at the start of every show, we like like to ask, how are you doing and your family doing during these unprecedented times?
We're doing good. Everybody's staying pretty healthy. I moved back to Maine about 3 weeks ago. We were closing up down below, and nothing was going to open right away. So we got home and just been hanging out at the barn and getting horses in the field and training every few days and concentrating on the 2 and 3-year-olds mostly and just keeping the old horses happy and fit enough. So whenever they give us a 2 or 3 week head start, we'll have them ready to go.
Mm-hmm. It must be difficult, though. I mean, you keep such an active schedule day in and day out. It must be a difficult transition in some ways.
Man, it's like Groundhog's Day. That movie is just like one day after the other. Some days are colder than others. Today was beautiful in the 60s, like it was up there for you, but they're calling for 3 to 6 inches of snow tomorrow night. So that should keep it interesting. But no, I got a lot of work done around the farm. Stuff I've been wanting to get done, and as long as we race and can survive long enough to not to burn up all the money, it's nice to get caught up and spend a little time relaxing. But it's not what we're used to for sure.
I'm just going to go over to Mitchell now quickly before and get your thoughts. So Mitchell, you're in Saratoga, I understand?
Yes, that's correct.
So how are you doing? How are you adapting to today's atmosphere?
That's pretty good, pretty bored. Thankful for the area that I'm in. It's very nice. Got a lot of people. But it's consisted of a lot of Xbox till about 2 in the wake up at noon. I stole my dog back from my parents, so because I can have him here at this place that I'm living now. Go for about hour and a half walk every day around the park. Go to a different spot every day. So it's been pretty good. Been playing a lot of basketball, a lot of wiffle ball at the Beckwith house. We're pretty much undefeated. Me and Mark have been completely smacking his son around. So it's been pretty entertaining. And I'd like to be making money, but making the most of it. Nothing we can do about it. Just like my dad said, waiting for a deadline. Just a little light at the end of the tunnel would be nice. And when they tell us we can go, we're ready.
Okay. I'm going to the guys, of course, Peter McPhee, Kent Oakes, and Jerry McCabe on the line with here. And Ron, we're going to start with you. I know we have a race before we get to the Gold Cup and bring you back in to both of it. But first of all, I want to set things up for our viewers tonight. A little bit of the story about the reason why you selected the two horses that you did to make the trip to Prince Edward Island to compete in the Gold Cup and Saucer. Can you start there with us on how important the trip was?
Why I selected those two? Well, they're just two really talented horses. I had one other one that's very, very fast. A horse called Mark Doro, but he wasn't quite as good on a half. And the Bettors Fires horse, he win a leg of the Inter-Dominion over in Australia when my partner Frank Rinaldi had him, and I win a leg of the Levy with him early last spring, and we kind of brought him over to be a top horse. He's getting older in age, but Frank just really believed he belonged over here. And the classification process there, the younger horses and the distances were getting hard on him. So he gave me a chance with him and kept him in my pursuit with my partner for 25 years. We bought, and he's just been a great horse. The other horse, Rock Diamonds, was a horse that Frank and I had watched for a couple of years and just agreed that he was just some kind of talented and just he was built right. And anyway, I took those two. They were my best shot. I'd really never planned. I'd planned on going up a few years back. I had a horse called Our First Falcon who actually did race before I bought him in the Gold Cup, before they had Lasix. And I had a few other good ones, but just between opportunity and time to get away and not the right help, just it didn't seem to work out. But last year, I'd found out the previous year that my mom and my dad, I've got a bunch of Canadian connections from Jill Barrio to a bunch of New Brunswick people, the Hennessy's, and Mike McDonald I used to drive for Rockinham's a great friend of mine. And everyone kept saying, you got to go to the Gold Cup, you got to go to the Gold Cup. So we gave it a shot that particular year because my ex-wife and my daughter had heard my mom wanted to go to PEI. She wanted to go to the Gold Cup and Saucer, her and my father's dream. And anyway, they took them up there the year before, but they went during July. And they kind of missed the point. They didn't understand my mom's kind of dream. And my son Mitchell and my fiance Heidi and I and my brother got talking like, I really should do this. And my plan was to get them up there and hopefully get them both in the final. And I didn't draw too good with Bettors Fire, but we got him there anyway. And the other horse, I kind of babied him because he just raced. He had to come back in 5 days, and I got myself beat in elimination. But he raced great, and Jason's horse raced super. And we finished second. But we got them both there, and I'd actually told my son, he goes, "Which one do I get to drive?" Like a typical test driver, you know. And I said, "You're going to drive the winner." I told him he was driving Rock Diamonds no matter where they drew, and then, I don't know, just once in a while a plan comes together and it works. And it's not very often in my lifetime, but thank God this time it did. So it was great. So
Thanks, Ron. Can you tell us a little more about your connection, the ownership on these two horses? You have quite a group. Yourself, your co-owners in Michigan, and then your third partners in Australia. And you've been in ownership together for 20 plus years. How did that come about, and how does that work?
Well, years ago, I wasn't lucky enough to own any of the horses. I started getting foreign horses after this, our first Falcon. And I'd drawn a connection to Frank Rinaldi as well as a couple other agents. And that kind of fell up to a few years. Moving back to Maine, came back with just a couple horses. As Plainridge was getting their slots and starting to get things going, my partner Kevin and I, we bought a couple older horses that were open, but we really needed an open mare. And I went looking, and I touched base with Frank one day, and we were always pretty honest with one another, pretty close, joked a lot. He's got a sense of humor like mine. And I started out with a mare called She's Just a Delight, and she sure was. Kevin and I made almost $500,000 with her, like in 2.5 years. She was just spectacular. And Frank and I, we kept buying more. And Frank came in with the Bettors Fire horse. He hadn't been partners with any. He'd never been partners with really anybody over here, like Joe Anderson, like 40 years ago, 35 years ago. And I was just lucky enough. He trusted me. He liked the way I did it, where I drive and train and shoe my own. And he just wanted that old horse taken care of. And then the other horses just kind of worked out. One deal had kind of fallen through on Mark Doro. Kevin and him were talking one day on the phone. I had a chance to buy him, but Rock Diamonds, and I don't know, we were having a little luck, and none of us, I guess we had the money to do it and the brains not to say no. And next thing you knew, we bought Rock Diamonds and Mark Doro all at the same time, which was a really brave investment, but it's paid off pretty well. We've had a lot of great experiences, but Frank and I, we probably talk more than me and my son do. We probably talk 4 or 5 times a week, 30, 40 minutes to a time. I mean, it's a great relationship for someone that I haven't seen in 25 or 30 years. It's pretty unique, but it's pretty special. And Kevin and I, like I said, we've been together a long, long time, and we've been buying from Frank. So, you know, Kevin was nice enough to use his money and my money and Frank's, and we put it together, and we've got 4 horses together. It's worked out pretty well so far. Just hopefully we can get back to racing so we can have a little more fun.
Ron, before we get to a couple of races here, Bettors Fire and Rock Diamonds, I'd just like to ask you how you got involved in the industry first time around.
My dad, and this was their passion. My father always said he taught school to make money, but he raised horses that was his living. He just loved it, and every day after school they'd come down, and I really wasn't into horses at the time. I was playing my sports, racing motocross a little bit, riding dirt bikes, and just being a 12, 13-year-old kid. But then I figured out if I'm going to hang around the barn, I got to sit there for 4 hours for my dad anyway. My Uncle Albert needed help cleaning stalls and jogging in the afternoon. I think I was 13, almost 14, and that was my job for like $60 a week. And from then on, you know, I dropped every sport except skiing and football. Stayed pretty dedicated to those, but just as soon as that was over, I just couldn't wait to get behind the horse, and tried college for a little. I wanted to do different things, but I just got the horse bug, and my education started a year after high school. I went training for Walter Case, then Teddy Wing, and just got my education traveling around that way. And until Maine got slots, I think I moved back home officially in '87, and then back again in 2010. Really, I've been pretty much on the road since then. So glad to be back, but that's where I got started.
Let's get Mitchell into here then, and we'll ask you the same question. What it's, you just turned 22, Mitch?
Yeah, in January.
So what it's been like for you? I know you're a top driver at Plainridge. Take us through your time, your short career, but a very, very powerful career so far.
Yeah, just I've been very fortunate with my family connections, obviously, and the guidance of my dad. Getting started with him, a lot of knowledge, a lot of trade I can learn from him. I wasn't allowed to do too much until on the racetrack with him, until I learned how to shoe. I can do it. Maybe definitely not the best at it, but I learned my pieces. Learned how to put stuff together. Rig horses up, properly take care of horses, training them, babies. All the above. Then I kind of got started just very simple at a fair called Cornish. Drove for my grandfather, Papa Rick. I drove one for my uncle that time, that first time when I was 12, and then 2 or 3 for dad, and that kind of continued till I was 15. Till because you can get your fair license at 16, and did fair driving. Papa was gone. Just Uncle Mike, the horses I owned with my dad, like Sign of Thunder. A couple of his cheaper ones when he had when like a fair like Topsom doubled up with Scarborough. Dad let me drive a couple little things like that. But I got a lot of my first starts with a really small guy that just does it for fun named Rusty Lamford. He gave me a lot of teaching moments. He may not know that, but I learned a lot from the horses I drove for him. And after that, it just kind of kept growing, just like anybody else, here and there, people you warmed up for, maybe people you helped out in the paddock, just being nice, things like that, people giving you opportunities. And Maine's a great place to start. Just a ton of fairs like Ohio, very small stuff that just, you learn a lot more than you would anticipate without knowing it till you get older. So, it just all kind of snowballed like that. And my uncle gave me my first real start with money, at Plainridge. I had a great opportunity from an older gentleman by Gordon Dubois back home in Maine. He always took care of me, every win we had, give me an extra $100 cash. We'd win 5 weekends sometimes. So, it just kind of kept growing, very small increments, and, getting to look back at it and questions like this, made you realize sometimes, how little some things are, but how much they help you out. So, it's been a good process. Hopefully there's a lot to come, but, every year, just try and be better and make a living. And after that, you can only control so much. So, I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing every day and winning races.
Well, we'll pause there, and we're gonna before we can get to the Gold Cup and Saucer and Mitch, your big win as a 21-year-old in your first appearance in the Gold Cup. A little out of sequence here, but Ron, I'm just going to throw it back to you with Bettors Fire, and we selected this race, a division of the Levy Series at Yonkers back in April. Safe to say, with Bettors Fire in here, and then making the trip to Prince Edward Island, which we were happy to see. But take us through your thoughts on this race before we roll the tape.
He caught one race. I got locked in. Actually, one of your Maritimers got me, Mark McDonald. We'd got a hard quarter and worked out where I never did get out. And I'd won the Open with him, and he'd been good all spring, really. But I just took my time with him, wherever he drew, and tried to protect him what I could. And this was the last leg, or the next to the last leg, and he drew the 4-hole. He had a straight line across the track, and he'd done pretty good. And everyone knew I'd gotten roughed up a few weeks back and not gotten in, so they kind of figured I probably was gonna definitely want to lead with him, and I got some really comfortable fractions, and he's just a class active horse. He can really make you look good. You can make mistakes, or you can use him to where he gets to where he needs to be, and he relaxes as quick as any horse does. Just a total professional. I've been lucky enough over the years to have a few top horses, like horses that can go with about anybody, but not always the best, and some that mean a lot to me. But this horse is probably the nicest horse. Since he's 12 right now in the United States, 11, I guess in real life, 11 and a half. He's pretty professional. Mitchell's been lucky enough to drive him a couple of times too, and he just makes your job really, really easy. But for his age to race against the horses he raced against in the Levy or even in the Gold Cup just shows you the type of athlete that he really is. So.
Well,
That's
before
him.
we get him in the Gold Cup,
special cat.
let's see him.
I'm undefeated with him.
Yeah, you're undefeated with it.
All right, let's go to Yonkers.
They're racing. Bettors fire from out of a crowd for the lead. To the inside, Anything for Love. With Control Tower, Rodeo Romeo's between rivals, and I'm Some Graduate. But quick off the mark, Ron Cushing on the 11-year-old. Bettors fire. Leads it early by 2 over Anything for Love. It's 4 more back to Control Tower third. Rodeo Romeo settles in fourth, about 6.5 from the fleet-footed Bettors fire. Then comes I'm Some Graduate, 2 clear of More the Better. The back markers are Nocturnal Blue Chip and Rockathon. The leader is Bettors Fire to an opening quarter in 27-4. Bettors Fire at 8-1. Leads it by 2 from Anything for Love. Control Towers next, then Rodeo Romeo spots this leader about 5 lengths around the paddock turn. Next comes I'm Some Graduate. And now heading to the outside is I'm Some Graduate. That'll give cover to More the Better. Nocturnal Blue Chip and the trailer. 50-1 long shot, Rockathon. As the field in race 7, second division of the Levy, and it's held by Bettors Fire. Bettors Fire calls the shots and leads it by 2 lengths over Anything for Love. Moving on the outside, I'm Some Graduate. Back fourth is Control Tower. They go a half mile in 57-4. A tap on the brakes in a 30-second second quarter as they approach the backstretch. More the Better is making noise now. Second over. Down toward the inside goes Rodeo Romeo. Nocturnal Blue Chip is third over, and the trailer is Rockathon. But the field beginning to take close order now behind Bettors Fire. Bettors Fire on the outside. I'm Some Graduate toward the inside. Anything for Love third. Perched second over is More the Better. 3 quarters in 1:25-4. 28-second third quarter. Final turn. The leader is Bettors Fire. I'm Some Graduate looking to close ranks now toward the inside. Anything for Love to the far outside. More the Better. Moving between horses. Control Tower into the stretch. Bettors Fire's led from the start and still does. Bettors Fire keeping to his task here. On the inside, Anything for Love. But time has run out. Bettors Fire all the way. Anything for Love. Then came More the Better. Nocturnal Blue Chip late on the scene. 153-2.
So there's Bettors Fire in action with Ron Cushing at the controls there. Their Levy Series at Yonkers and of 2019. Just a fantastic performance there, Ron. You got things all your own way.
Yeah, he like I said, he's quick for an old horse, and he just knows how to relax. And you can slow him down at different times of the mile. So the next thing you know, you got a 30-second quarter when they never even really felt you do it to him. And he just he knows what to do when they come to him. He knows where the wire is, and every once in a while he doesn't get there, but there's usually something wrong with him if he doesn't. So he's been very enjoyable, very enjoyable.
Well, one guy that you don't see on the screen here tonight, but our creator, Kent Oakes, joins us on the phone, and we're going to get him into the mix here now. Kent, you're with Ron and Mitchell Cushing.
Hello to you both, guys, and it's great to see you. Glad to hear you're all keeping safe, and we look forward to seeing you again this summer. I guess my question for Ron is with how's your stable shaping up for this year, and kind of where you're at with your aged horses. How far down have you trained them, and how many 2-year-olds are you going with?
Well, my aged horses were all ready to go. We were just getting a couple more started in right before we shut down. A foreign horse Kevin and I bought, just him, a horse called Beside the Seaside, and he won his last start at Pocono. So I only had 3 wins, I think, in the first 3 months of the year, but I'm on a win streak right now because that was my last start. Another partner of mine, Scotty McKenzie, and his girlfriend Laura, we just purchased a mare, made the last flight over. A really nice mare, Don't Stop Believing, and I really have high hopes for her. She looks like she might be the real thing. I hope so. As far as my other race horses, Rock Diamonds was eligible. He's entered in the Olivia course. They haven't canceled it yet. I'm hoping something starts up pretty soon. I don't know how they'll change it, if we get to run it or not. He had 4 seconds, a couple big trips, a couple roughed up trips, but he was ready to go. I was really looking forward to this series. But besides that, the other old horses, they're they jog 2 or 3 days, train a trip, come back up to my farm, get 2 or 3 days in the field, and just try to keep them sharp without having them on their toes. And hopefully we're ready to go with them. Hopefully within a month or so. I sure hope. It's dragging on a little bit. As far as my young horses, I'm really proud of them. My 2-year-olds are training super. 3-year-olds are coming back strong, so I can't really ask any more out of them there. And what else we got? I just bought a couple I bought a couple off my friend Renee Allard, a couple trotters that'll fill the void. Hopefully, when we get racing, I haven't had any decent trotters in a while, and they both fit the right classes. So I was kind of proud of that, and just kind of looking forward to getting started. We got a few cheap horses from Maine, and right now I'd take anything. If you guys start next week, maybe I'll come up there. So. But that, whatever we can do. Right now, it's getting pretty stale. But like I said, I'm enjoying it. The horses are doing good, and just we never really get any downtime. So I guess this is it. So, but we don't know what we have to look forward to when we start back up. I mean, I'm sure the whole country and the whole world's going to take a pay cut for what this has cost everybody, and we're just going to have to work back together to try to get ourselves back where we were. Racetracks, casinos, businesses, small businesses. It's a scary thing when you really think about it. This is only the beginning, really, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Rebuilding will be tough.
Okay, so we're going to take it to the 2019 Gold Cup and Saucer. We've got so many questions to ask about this because it really is such a setup and such a great story from the start, from the trials through to the final, and even after the celebration in the winner's circle. And then Jerry, we're going to lead it off. Jerry McCabe, we're going to lead it off with you.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Well, pick it up with Bettors Fire. After he won that leg of the Levy series, he took his lifetime mark the next month at Pocono Downs, winning in 150-1 over that 5/8 mile track. Shipped back to Maine in July, where he took the Midsummer Classic at Scarborough Downs, $25,000 feature race there in 54 flat, and followed that up with a big win in the feature at Bangor Raceway, the Paul Bunyan Pace. Half-mile track, 54 flat. So he was sharp coming into Old Home Week, the classy old veteran. Rock Diamonds, he was coming into the Gold Cup trials off a win in 150 flat. His start before his Old Home Week appearance in the Gold Cup trials. And the trials turned out, the first one, Travis Cullen, Midway Isle. They upset the 2018 Gold Cup winner, Somewhere Fancy, in 152-1 in the first Gold Cup trial on Saturday evening. Bettors Fire finished third in that event. The Monday night second trial was a good battle with Rock Diamonds leading most of the way. Just got caught at the end by Jason Hughes and Sir Pugly for trainer Patrick Shepard. And it all set up for Saturday night's feature. When the draw came out, it was the defending champ was the pre-race favorite. He drew post 4, Somewhere Fancy. Bettors Fire was the second choice, and he had the second post 2 for Ron. Mitchell picked up the catch drive on Rock Diamonds from post 5, and the 2 trial winners were Midway Island, drew the outside 7. Sir Pugsley had the rail, and what a beauty of a race it turned out to be.
And Mitch, I'd like to ask you your thoughts coming in. I think did you arrive on Friday of Old Home Week?
Yeah, yes, I did. Right from playing.
So, did you get some instructions from your dad on this horse, and what were your thoughts going into the big race?
No, I don't really think I got any instructions, but like he said earlier, my first comment was when he said he was taking both those horses up there, and I obviously watched the elims, because I wanted to see them both get in, not only for him and his owners, but obviously I wanted a little taste of it too. But my first comment was I told him, and obviously us joking around, I said, which horse are you taking? I didn't ask which one I was driving. I said, I just want to know which one you're taking. So when the draw comes out, if one has the rail, one has the 8-hole, I obviously know what you're doing. But that was my deal. And he said, I'm taking the old horse, just like he had referred. And, that's where it went off. And, we looked at the draw, and I went up there, on Friday. I couldn't give up any money at Plainridge. I'm just too cheap. But if I were to do it again, like I said, everybody else, I would definitely probably race my Monday at Plainridge. Now maybe race my Wednesday at Saratoga. But, I'd like to spend, if I get the opportunity, I'd love to spend more time up there and, get to see more of the island, because I only saw driving in, and it's beautiful. But no, there wasn't too many instructions. I know the horse just from talking to Dad, racing against him, things like that. So, he just said pretty much just, keep him quiet, and that was it. Just drive horses, drive the race.
What's his
Mitch,
best
just
traits,
before-
Mitch? What's Rock Diamonds? What's the best about him on the track?
I mean, I've raced against him quite a bit. Only driven him twice. Win with him once, the biggest win of my career, his career, and Dad's career. And the other time I choked him down. So I'd like to say, I think if you handle him right, you take care of him, you let him know what's going on. He can do anything, really. I mean, I watch his videos. My dad sent a couple of his videos, and he bought him. I watched him at Plainridge. He's super versatile. He's just so fast off the car. He's such a fast horse. I think you see one side of him more than the other, but I go and check him out. Sometimes when I can with Dad at the barn. Obviously I like to think I have a connection with him now, just for old sake. But he's just a cool horse. I think he's very versatile. Like I said, I haven't driven him enough, to say what his best traits are or anything like that. But he seems super useful. That's probably a better question for Dad.
Can we get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, and Mitch is right. I mean, he is so strong, and we race on a half-mile track a lot, or even a 5/8. You're trying to you're trying to win every race you're in. You're not trying to abuse him and use his speed, but you're trying to get him in a position where it's easier than any other spot. But to be honest with you, I love him. The trip Mitch gave him that, and I wouldn't say ideally I'd want to be fourth over boxed in and trying to find your way through traffic. But if you can keep him settled, you can pace a quarter, 25 in a piece, and he doesn't care which one it is. When you touch him off, and he doesn't do it like a quick horse, he does it like he lifts the wheels off the ground, when you're traveling him. He's just a very, 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 probably the strongest horse I've ever sat behind. It's not really pulling you. He's just, if you touch him off, you better be ready to go somewhere, or make sure you're not running over somebody. But he's very smart, though. Like, he doesn't wear a head check. He plays all the time, got his head down to his chest, but he's a cool dude. He really is. Like, I told Frank and I told Kevin when we were looking at buying him, Frank had Bettors 5 since he was 3 years old. And I told Kevin, I said, when we were deciding whether to spend the money, I said, I think if he stays healthy, he's our Bettors Fire. He's the horse that's going to make us $800,000, $1 million if he doesn't get hurt, and if the purses don't drop down to nothing. But he's a cool dude. He's a good horse.
I just want to ask one more question before we go to the race. And that's Kent Oakes is not seeing the message board, so I want to make sure he gets in on the question there. Kent, do you have a question for the Mitchells prior to the Gold Cup? And then we'll be able to ask some follow-up questions that we have.
Sure. I guess perhaps for both, what was your impressions of what you thought the Old Home Week of the Gold Cup and Saucer would be, and what was your impressions afterward of the week and the event?
I mean, I was anticipating everything kind of going on. I watched all the videos. I think the first Gold Cup video I'd seen was Scotty Z when he set the track record, and I think the other one I had seen that kind of I guess portrayed the energy was when I watched Escape the News win it, and I had watched that because Dad had bought him off of Burke's, so that was kind of like when I looked the horse up, that was something that stood out, just something cool to touch in. And I mean, it's just like I had said in my Winter Circle interview, it's like Freiburg Fair, there's so many people, but get that much anymore. And I think, that's something we've lost that we can definitely get back. It's everyone there. It's the generation difference. Like the young people there for the same reason we are. They're there for that race. There's the fair out back. And like I'd referred in Freiburg, the picnic tables and stuff are lined up for everyone to eat their food. But at Old Home Week, people go to the fence line because they want to see the races, not just to sit down and eat the food they grab from the fair. And I think that's really unique. That's something we need that I haven't gotten to experience much. Obviously you get that at the Hambo and the Little Brown Jug and things like that. But for my background and what I've experienced, that's super unique, and it's good to see.
Okay, let's go to the race. 2019, it seems like so long ago, but it really wasn't. And it was a packed night, a huge crowd there, as you'll see in the video here. And let's roll this race, and we'll talk to the Cushings right after.
In the greatest race in Canada on a half-mile racetrack for age-pacing horses, the Gold Cup and Saucer. This is number 60. Rail out. Sir Pugsley, Jason Hughes, Bettors Fire, Ron Cushing. Bet on Brett, Louis Philippe Watt, Somewhere Fancy, Simon Allard. Lisburn has Kenny Arsenault, Rock Diamonds, Mitchell Cushing. Midway Island, Travis Cullen. National Debt, Gilles Berriot. Showtime! Up and pacing and cup and saucer 60. Bet on Brett leaving out. Bettors Fire towards the rail. Sir Pugsley stacking them up 3 wide early. Somewhere Fancy away 4th. Lisburn on the rail 5th. Then in 6, Rock Diamonds. Midway Island 7th. National Debt trails the field. Bet on Brett will clear the lead in line to Louis Philippe Waugh. Clear by 3. They're over to the opening quarter mile. Sir Pugsley all alone in 2nd. Bettors Fire at the rail 3rd. Opening quarters up. Wow. Boom. Just like that. 26 and 3 was the opening quarter. Down the stretch they come. On the front end, Bet on Brett, the leader. 2nd is Sir Pugsley. Bettors Fire now 3rd. Somewhere Fancy is 4th. Then in 5th is Lisburn. Rock Diamond 6th. National Debt 7th. Trailing the field, Midway Island is 8th. They were halfway home in a rolling 54 and 1. Onward they go round the paddock turn by the 5-8. Here comes Sir Pugsley, and the Blue Knight will take over. They're going to 3/4. Bet on Brett painting at the rail. Bettors Fire 3 wide on the outside. Somewhere Fancy coming way out there in Midway Island. 3/4 in 1:23 and 2. Approaching the 7-8. The leader, Sir Pugsley. Somewhere Fancy on the outside. Not far away. Coming up 3rd. Lisburn up the inside. Rock Diamonds. Wow. 4 of them. Here is Rock Diamonds and Mitchell Cushing. They win the Gold Cup and Saucer. It's going to be close between Lisburn and Somewhere Fancy. They are in a place picture. Time for the mile in Gold Cup and Saucer. Number 60 in 1:51.4. Wow.
Here's a slow-mo here, a couple of different versions of it. Peter McPhee, as you were working the desk that night, what a great memory this is here, and some great video work and great camera work through the stretch here.
Yeah,
What a
great
race
cable
this was.
cam shot here. Yeah, sorry, Lee. Great cable cam shot here. And Mitch, I'd just like to get your thoughts here. What are you feeling as you're hitting the wire?
I mean, obviously excitement, just like anybody else, But, I think it was like kind of a sense of relief, just like my dad had touched base on, just the importance, I think, more to my grandmother. I just, her dream, stuff like that with my grandfather and things like that. And for my dad, he works really hard. He puts in, in my opinion, besides babies, just as much effort in the sense of research and purchasing horses and investing money into his barn for the size of it. It was just, it was cool. If it was to him to drive, it doesn't matter. It was cool to complete something. I grew up obviously working for him. We had undefeated trotters, undefeated pacers through the main sire states, and it just seemed like we would do so well, and they would always seem to just get sick or just foolish stuff that's just racehorse things. And we would go through finals day and watch horses win races that couldn't even touch ours, through the year. So I think, after obviously the excitement of it, that was really where my emotions lied with it. It was just really cool to just to complete something, with Dad, but under that title. I've been fortunate to win some, like a Sire Stakes race, things like that for myself, and opportunities with Kevin Switzer, Papa Switz with Apple Bottom Jeans, just stuff for myself. But as a family and for my dad and Heidi and stuff like that, it was really, really, really nice. It meant a lot to I guess, complete something.
And Ron,
Well, there's so many.
again,
Go ahead.
Lee. Ron, just give a shout out to Heidi Gibbs as well, the first female to win the Gold Cup and Saucer, and it means so much to your stable.
Oh, Heidi and I have been together for Going on 18 years
17.
here, starting next
17.
month. Next month going on, but 17, yeah. Yeah, we're probably going to have to sneak a wedding in somewhere during this year, but no, she's a rock. You can ask Mitch. I mean, she's as far as loving the horses, like if we got babies at home in the field, they think she's one of them, and they beat her up, and they love her to death. And she'll ride us all the time. We're getting rid of all the horses. No more brood mares. We're quitting. We're doing this, and I'm going on vacation. And first one up every day is her, and worrying about them. But she puts in whatever I put in. She might not put the hours in, but the effort is much a greater. I mean, me, it's a passion, and like my father, he'd say the same thing. But my brother and I talk all the time. I mean, what's retirement? I mean, we're already retired. I mean, I played sports. I played football, and I loved it. But I'm competing with my son. That's why I told him, you got to take these moments. You don't realize it when you're racing against one another. But Gordie Howe played with one of his kids in hockey. But I mean, it's very rare that a person can compete or do the same thing he did when he was 14, 15, 16 years old. And I'm 55 now, and I work hard to stay in shape, but I'm still doing the same thing. And I hope I mean, I don't really see, as long as I don't get hurt and end up in a home somewhere, pretty much I'll probably die in a barn or somewheres around that if I can. That'd be my choice, to work right till then. So I'm retired.
I'm going to bring back the winner circle photo. And there's the sponsor on your left with the Guardian Gold Cup and Saucer, and Colin Sly there, the sales team there, and the mayor Philip Brown and the Lieutenant Governor next to his worship there, Antoinette Perry, and then the Premier, the Honorable Dennis King, who said in the press conference, Jerry and Kent, earlier this week, or the week of the Gold Cup, that he just couldn't wait to be trackside and to hoist that trophy, which he did.
No, it's awesome.
So next we have Mitchell, of course, Heidi, and the groom. Help me out with the groomer. Is that Scotty?
Yeah, Scotty Crow.
Yeah,
we stayed out at Donnie's farm, and I mean, our whole trip started out with trucks breaking down, and I mean, he saved us. Got my truck into a dealership, got it fixed. It did die again right when I got home, and we got a new one now. But I mean, we was there with one of his trucks. He picked us up. Scotty and Danny Romo. He came down with Danny Romo, and he loved Bettors Fire. And Chris Davies, a friend of mine, actually, I got a horse down here for Chris and his owner Ken Livingston right now. They bought that'll be up there with you as soon as Chucky Symes can pick him up. He wanted a shout out, so now he got one. But Scotty was there with Danny, and the old horse. Chris paddocked them both in the eliminations for me, because I've known Chris for about 10 or 15 years, and Scotty really wanted to paddock one the final, and he loved the old black horse. In fact, he had to catch him out of the field the day before, because it took us. I turned him out the day before the final, and he wasn't going out that morning, so it took me 5 hours to catch him. He just wouldn't come in. Well, Scotty caught him. He wanted to paddock him, and I said, no. Chris, I gave Chris a choice. Scotty picked that one. I said, well, you got the winner, Scotty. And I'll tell you what, just being on the island, like I told Mitchell, and I tell anybody that asks me, it's literally like a time warp. It's a good time warp, because you guys are as modern as Ken Warkentin and those guys at the Meadowlands. You guys do a great job. You promote very modern. But when you walk onto that island, it's like vintage 1980s. I mean, every store you go to, people are talking about racing even 20 miles away. And what that meant to Scotty, I'd win that race all over again for myself. Would be great. I'd love it. But just to see how Scotty felt and what it meant to him to paddock that horse. And, he couldn't, I mean, him and Heidi, he was getting more hugs and kisses than I was, because they were both so happy. So it was pretty special. I know it meant a lot to him, and I'm sure glad. And if we get there again, I hope he's there for us. So.
Also, Maya Donahue, who is the Gold Cup and Saucer, Miss Gold Cup and Saucer. I know her dad, John, and mother Jill, and everybody was so excited. And I know Sandra Webster and Kelly Feehan just did a great job with the ambassadors that week. Is your mom in the photo there too?
Yeah, my mom's right to my left there in the gray sports jacket.
Yeah. Excellent. So just a very special moment for sure, a special week. And when you end off with something like that, be able to do it in such a special way, it's a lasting memory for sure.
Yeah.
We'd love to talk longer, but you know what? And we hope that you both stay well and your families stay well, and we hope that things will return back to normal again. And we'd love to have you back for a future Gold Cup and Saucer. You're welcome anytime here on Prince Edward Island.
Oh, if I can do if nothing stops me, we will definitely be there. It's going to be tough, but we don't know what the schedule is going to bring when we get out of this. And hopefully, I saw something on Facebook today where you guys are trying to hope you can have it. The fair committee was talking or something like that. So I sure hope you can for your sake, and I hope my schedule works out for our sake. And if I can get them both in the final again, and maybe we'll see if Wally Hennessy can't come.
Well, we were talking to Wally again tonight.
He's always there. I saw him at Palm.
You're right. He is always there. No, I'd give anything to do it all over again. And I tell you, I know what it meant to Mitch, and he's right. I mean, we finished something, and we didn't even go there to plan to win it. But I told him I was going there to win it. I mean, it wasn't only in the aspect of wanting to and saying so, but it really, and I said in the beginning, I really thought Rock Diamonds would win it if he could get in position, and I could help him in any way, not to get him there, but if both of us trying, I just thought that if that horse was anywhere near close, he'd have a great shot. And I pretty much told Mitch that, and I would rather see Mitch win one time than me win 10. I mean, it just, when you talk generations, it was my dad's dream, my mom's. I'm her son. He's my son. It really, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a great experience for a father to watch you. I watched him on the football field after I had what I thought was a good career. Watching him was 10 times better. And when I watch him race every day, I barely miss a race. Seeing him do that was really special. So I'm hoping his career is long and I can enjoy it to watch. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, that goes along with the text message before I got off the racetrack with apple bottom jeans of what my check amount was. It equaled almost what my planard week was. So yeah, he's definitely not wrong about that. He's always right there.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Good to talk to you guys. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
You guys too. Thank you so much. You guys do a great job.
So it's Ron Cushing and his son Mitchell Cushing tonight on the virtual Tack Room as we roll along on coming to an end of another show, coming through the stretch here right now, I guess is the way we'll put it. And again, a couple of great photos still to come. Jerry, Peter, Kent, I mean, that is just an amazing story when you look at it. We get to frame it back up again. I mean, we could feel it unfolding throughout the week. But for it to end that way was so special.
It sure was, Lee. Just the fact that his dad had been in the harness racing game. Ron had known so many Maritimers, like you mentioned, Mike McDonald, Steve Maher, and then to actually come with the horses, get them both in the final. Mitch comes down to drive, and he drives Rock Diamonds and wins it. It's like a fairy tale, Lee, and it came true, winning it last year.
Storybook indeed. Seems to happen every year in the Gold Cup one way or another, but a great storyline from last year. Great people, great experience all around, and just wonderful. Go down that memory lane and relive it a little bit tonight.
Kent, you've seen so many Gold Cup and Saucers over the year, but nothing that felt like this in terms of the storyline. And Mitch did an awesome interview with Nick, and that young man has got a bright future as well.
He absolutely does, guys. He gave an excellent interview, and Nick mentioned after to me, he was extremely articulate. He had a strategy in his own mind going into the race that certainly had to modify as the race developed as circumstances dictated. But a very bright young man, Mitch. It's wonderful to see a third generation into our industry, and it'll be wonderful to have them back up again this summer if everything works out.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we just wanted to to again mention it's a very busy time across the Maritimes and all breeding farms with foals arriving. And this is a picture of a foal that arrived at the Rolson farm. Of course, the Rolson's a third generation farm with Doug, Bill, and now Scott. This is looks like a Chippendale stud colt out of the Trotmare King Kong Kate. And we just wanted to pass along that and thank Scott for sending that photo in. And we've got another photo as well that comes to us from Blaine Thibodeau in Kensington. This is a malicious stud colt out of Blaine's mare, Devilishly Good. She's an major mare. And just want to wish well to everybody who's involved in breeding and producing of standardbreds across the region. We will be back racing, and it's critical that we keep producing standardbreds to ensure the horse supply for the future. We want to wish good luck to all the folks who are putting in a lot of long hours watching mares foal this spring, and a lot of effort into trying to select the right stallion for their mare. And we wish everybody good luck as all the foals arrive primarily over the next 6 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that looks like we're coming through the stretch here, and another edition of the virtual tack room tonight, brought to you tonight by JD Marine and Diving Inc. And a special thanks once again to Cam McPhee. Guys, there was some talk, a lot of talk earlier this week. Text messages coming through tonight, some of the message chat as well. All we can say at this point is that there was a release sent out a few weeks ago. We will have an update on racing, as we said we would, with that release that was sent out from Red Shores and the PEI Harness Racing Industry Association on May the 1st. So we are going to hit that deadline in terms of getting information out, a follow-up, if you will, on May the 1st, and that's all we can tell you at this point. But another great show tonight. I really enjoyed the segments and the photos tonight, and we'll go around and say our good nights. Peter McPhee, over to you.
And Lee, terrific show. What I thought the show really showed tonight, Lee, was how much people love horse racing. Kenny Warkentin, the detail that he has is terrific. And to have Ron and Mitchell both come on, Lee, and recap the 2019 Gold Cup was terrific. They love harness racing, Lee, and it showed tonight.
Stay safe, my friend. Over to you, Jerry. Another great show tonight. And boy, we covered a lot of territory in many years in this one, too.
Sure did. Never seems to fail. Saturday evening goes by like a whir, and we're getting through this week at a time, staying apart, but coming together to do events like this. And hopefully we'll all be back together soon. In the meantime, everybody stay safe. Keep doing what we have to do until we get the word to ease up. I want to say thank you to all the viewers tuning in from all parts. Thank you for your diligence, for coming back, for all your nice comments. Really appreciate it.
And Kent, as we close off yet another show tonight, just a show that was really, as you said from day one, was to stay apart in these times and follow the direction of the health professionals, but to come together on a Saturday night.
Absolutely, and a great job by all our guests. It's wonderful to see, that the passion that we all have for PEI harness racing and Old Home Week and the Gold Cup and Saucer is shared by Ron and Mitchell and by just to follow up on that. It's let's everybody stay safe. We will be together soon, and we look forward to with the resumption of racing. Whenever we get the green light to go. But great job, guys, and wonderful to see everybody again.
So nice to hear from some folks that we can't get to them all the comments that are coming in. We really do appreciate that. They're popping up all over the screens and text messages and viewership. A couple of nice notes from Scott Green there. Thank you, Scott. Steve Mahar, guys. Just heard from Steve Mahar. Nice little note there. He said he drove horses for Ronnie's dad over the years, so that was really nice to hear from him. And there's a guy that maybe we'll peg for a future show as well. Mm-hmm. But the virtual tack room tonight, thank you for tuning in. Stay safe this week, and we look forward to talking to you again on another edition of the virtual tack room. Good night.